Last week, I went down for a meeting at the Surgeon General's office in Washington, D.C., and I met with Melissa Brodowiki, who is a senior policy advisor in the Surgeon General's office. As you know, right now we don't have a Surgeon General, we have an acting Surgeon General. But nevertheless, I had wanted to get an appointment down there because knowing that the Surgeon General's office is, number one, responsible for actions related to the health of the U.S. citizenry, but secondly, there were so many comparisons between the smart meter and wireless situation and the tobacco situation. And when you read about the role the Surgeon General's office played in linking or accepting the link between lung cancer and smoking in 1964, when the Surgeon General's office published the warning that smoking can cause cancer and labeling started. It was really their action that triggered a lot of independent research after that and years of work on finding out more about the effects of smoking on our health. And so I kept wondering what the Surgeon General's office knew about all of this low-level electromagnetic radiation, pulsed low-level exposure that we are being exposed to with smart meters in our communities and also with the proliferation of wireless devices, all of which have the same technology of this low-level pulsed microwave radiation, electromagnetic radiation. And I wanted to know what they knew and if they were taking any action. So I took a chance and tried to get an appointment, and I was set up for an appointment on Monday, and I met with Melissa for an hour, and it was a very productive meeting. If I had to voice an opinion on it at this point, I can only say that they were open to the information. I did not get a sense that this is an issue that they have done a lot of work on. So I felt like it was a really great opportunity to start the dialogue. So what I did with Melissa is I talked about why I was there and the parallels to the tobacco industry. And I gave her a copy of the DVD called Take Back Your Power, which has been shown throughout the country and exposes all of the dangers related to smart meters and some to the other wireless devices. I also gave her a copy of Dr. Martin Blank's book. He is a scientist, Columbia University, and he has been studying the effects of wireless technology and this electromagnetic radiation for years. And he just published this book called Overpowered, which I consider required reading for any of us that really want to learn about this from a layman's perspective. And he presents amazing information, and as well as talks about the fact that we have to live with electronics. We know that. But there are a couple of things we haven't done. We have not informed the public about the dangers. So there is nothing that says, here's what you should be doing with your cell phone. Here's how you should be handling all of these other wireless devices. And so he does have a lot of practical information that allows us to live in a wireless world, but taking precautions, number one, and being aware of the risks to our health. And the risks are enormous. The statistics are building every single day. And that was the other hook that I found interesting. When the Surgeon General's office made its statement about smoking and the link to cancer, they did it not based on thousands of laboratory reports that unequivocally proved the connection. They did it based on epidemiological research. And this has been one of the great learning things for me, is the fact that public health decisions often have to be made based on epidemiological research, which shows that there seem to be connections between. We're seeing an increase in deaths from lung cancer. We're seeing that most of the people experiencing this are smokers. We draw a connection between the two. And when there is enough of that connection, it's epidemiological research, that we have the statistics, we have a lot of evidence, we don't have all the scientific causality yet, but we make a decision that is the precautionary principle, which says we need to do something because there's something going on here and the risks are high, so let's take some action. And that action could be education of the public, it could be regulations, it could be labeling, it's increases in awareness. And that's where we are right now with wireless devices. You know, there are movements about wireless in the schools. There are movements about wireless in your homes, between the smart meters, the baby monitors, all the wireless computer technology that we have. So this was an important area for me to discuss with
You
them.
put a story out there, it's wrong, but what the heck? We're going to go with it. We're going to look you straight in the eye and we're going to lie to you. What are you going to do about it?
Melissa said that she was going to do internal work and follow up. She was going to check to see where in the agency there might be some knowledge and information about this. So she was grateful for the knowledge, and I tried to give it to her in a way that she could now go and do some additional research. And she was also going to check with other government agencies to see if there were other agencies that she would recommend to us that we follow up on.
These meters of themselves are responsible for no reduction in the consumption of electricity.
I did. I talked about the smart meter situation in Sedona, which is really what precipitated all of this learning, and the fact that smart meters are affecting us both in terms of health, safety, privacy, and security. All of these areas are of concern to our public, and yet smart meters are being foisted upon us, in some cases without even the opportunity to opt out. Now in Arizona right now, we can still opt out without a penalty. But when APS brings the option plan to the Arizona Corporation Commission, you know, there is a possibility that they would want to impose a penalty on people who want to opt out. So some of the things that I asked her to consider. I mean, why were we there? We were there, you know, I explained why we were there and why the Surgeon General's office. I gave her the information about smart meters and other wireless devices and some easy ways for her to get up to speed. And, you know, the things that we were asking for were to increase their level of awareness. So to what degree are they aware of all of this? And can we expect that they will get educated about these issues and find out where in the government something is happening related to this, number one. Number two, we were asking them to consider funding research, independent research, because much of the research being used by the industry itself is tainted because it's paid for by the industry. Independent scientists who have been doing the research have been finding risks and dangers and increases in illness. The research being done by that's paid for by the industry is saying these items are safe. And so this is exactly where tobacco was 50 years ago. The industry was saying it's safe and scientists were saying we have a problem. So the goal here was to ask the Surgeon General's office to consider doing independent research, to consider labels and warnings, to consider having the industry come before them and testify about what is going on and whether or not these items are safe and what information they have to prove they're safe, which they don't have information to prove they're safe. So it's a matter of doing what they can as the Surgeon General's office to exercise the precautionary principle to protect the health of the public. And so I am hoping, and I'll follow up, of course, with Melissa on the various areas that we discussed as well. Well, another area that we thought was really important was alerting schools and hospitals about this, because more and more schools are installing wireless and it's dangerous and they should be going with wired, and more hospitals are boasting that they're operating in a wireless mode, and all of that can be done with wired technology, eliminating the electromagnetic low level but chronic exposure that we're experiencing and that's being tracked to so many diseases. So these are two areas that should be looked at with special care, because children, pregnant women, seniors, and those who are already medically compromised are the most vulnerable. And we have our own stories here in Sedona. You've played the interview with Mariana Hartsong, who 4 or 5 hours after smart meters were installed in houses around hers, experienced a retinal issue and a detached retina, and has had 3 or 4 surgeries to try to correct it. Not to mention what happened with the bees and the hens that she has, and the distorted eggs and the dead bees. And so I shared some of these stories. And also, you know, there is a Boeing analyst who lives down in Phoenix who, after 2 years of having seizures, someone sent him an article that said, "Are smart meters making you sick?" And when he looked at his smart meter and checked with APS as to when it was installed just a couple of months before his seizures began. He had them remove it. He's permanently now electrohypersensitive, but he is living without seizures because he was able to have this element removed from his daily life. So, you know, we need to really ramp up the level of education, and the degree to which we can begin to get the federal government involved, I think, is important. It's not going to be easy, but I think, you know what, I mean, the Margaret Mead saying, you know, never underestimate the power of a small group of people to make things happen. They're the ones that usually get it done. So, you know, I urge everyone to speak to your representatives, to begin asking the questions, and to find out how aware they are. And that's our goal for Sedona Smart Meter Awareness here in Sedona.